What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Bulls Report. My name is Patrick Siepman. We got some big-time rumors on the big three of DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and Nikola Vucevic heading your way on today's show, as it's looking like LeBron James would be open to taking a pay cut to have DeMar DeRozan come to his hometown of Los Angeles. But I want to start off with asking you guys a question about Zach LaVine, because as we know, it's going to be incredibly hard for the Bulls to move off him in a trade this offseason, just due to his contract. And we'll dive into that, here shortly. But will Zach LaVine play another game for the Chicago Bulls? You guys predict it for me down below. Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. But let's dive into this report coming in from Windhorse yesterday, as he said LeBron James is willing to take a pay cut to play with DeMar DeRozan. Now, is this LeBron just trying to, up his media status? Or, as we know, LeBron is one of the best media manipulators in, honestly, history of any major sports. But, I could see LeBron definitely be open to this. As, the Lakers roster, they still have that need for that tertiary scorer, a guy at the guard position who they feel more comfortable with just running pick and rolls, just getting their offense in and out of sets in comparison to guys like D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves. But also Chris Haynes, who's very tapped in with the Lakers, said this about the Lakers signing DeMar DeRozan. He said it will either take a one-year deal or a sign-and-trade where you can get a 3-year deal going. And personally, as a Bulls fan, I'm hoping we can get a sign-and-trade for DeMar DeRozan. And, I do think DeMar, I think he would want to lean signing a 3-year deal instead of a 1-year deal, just obviously where he's at in his career, going on his age 35 season. Like, I think DeMar wants more stability and more, long-term guarantees instead of just playing on kind of a 1-year prove-it deal, because the next offseason when he hits free agency, then teams are going to be saying, well, you're going to be entering your age 36 season. Really, how productive are you going to be? So I think DeMar personally wants to sign a deal about 3 for $90, and that'd be huge if the Bulls could pull off a sign and trade. Maybe you get D'Angelo Russell and you reroute him somewhere else, and you could maybe get a first-round pick for him. Whatever the options are. But I would really, really, hope the Bulls could get a sign and trade for DeMar. But we did get the breaking news yesterday. This is coming in from Joe Cali. Works with the Chicago sometimes, and some people aren't the biggest fan of Cali, but he is pretty tapped in with the Chicago Bulls. So he said a source told the Sun-Times late Sunday night that the Alex Caruso-Josh Giddey trade was the final straw in DeRozan's mind of any sort of return, as the 34-year-old will now use his free agency to shop elsewhere. And I don't blame DeMar DeRozan at all for having this, thought process here, because I think DeMar had two options. It's either he's going to go chase a ring with a contender throughout the tail half of his career, or he wanted to stay with the Chicago Bulls and be a mentor for a lot of these young guys. I think DeMar is going to lean, that championship ring route. And, as a contender, I think DeMar is an underrated player in the NBA. I mean, he's a veteran. He knows the ins and outs of the NBA, and he's been incredibly productive for the Bulls, making the All-Star game 2 of the last 3 seasons, always playing, damn near 75-plus games a year. And even back in 2021, when the Bulls were one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference for half of that season, DeMar was putting up MVP-esque numbers, averaging 28, 5 assists a game, always been super efficient. And we've even seen, some self-awareness from DeRozan as he's starting to up his three-point, or starting to add more three-pointers to his shot diet, especially the corner three this year. DeMar put him up, way more than he did in his past. And also, I talk about DeMar's impact, on the Bulls, not only on the court. I felt like he was fantastic, but also off the court. The development of Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, it has been fantastic. And I chalk a lot of that up to DeRozan. Obviously, you got to give credit to these two guys, as they're obviously, should get a ton of the credit for this, but also DeRozan, having that guy in there, that veteran just presence in the locker room, teaching them the ins and outs of the NBA, just giving them little tips and tricks on how to just, be a better NBA player on and off the court. So DeMar, his impact will be felt with the Chicago Bulls for hopefully the next 5 to 6 years, when hopefully these two guys are making impact plays for the Bulls in the playoffs here shortly. But let's show DeMar DeRozan some love, as I don't blame him at all for wanting to leave the Bulls, and I think he has just been fantastic with his tenure with in Chicago. So showing some love, type his jersey number, give me an 11 down in the comments section. Now, we got this report from Chris Haynes yesterday, and I kind of chuckled at it. He was saying the Bulls are looking to dump the contracts of Zach LaVine and Lonzo Ball. And, Bulls, let's just be real here. What team is going to take on damn near $70 million worth of contracts from Zach LaVine and Lonzo Ball. Because LaVine, right now, he's slated to make $43 million next season, but with the 15% trade kicker, gets him up to 49, and then Lonzo's making 21 next season. I just don't believe that report really from Chris Haynes, but maybe the Bulls are calling. And, my take on this, like if the Bulls are going to, want to move off LaVine and Lonzo, especially in the same deal, there's no doubt that they're going to have to probably attach some future draft capital. And I think with where the Bulls are heading right now with this youth movement, starting to embrace this rebuild, I think it would be an absolute disaster if they attached a first-round pick to move off them. However, if it is the Portland Trailblazers first-round pick that is lottery protected for next season, I would send that in a heartbeat if it meant you got to move off Zach LaVine. And, if you could somehow move off this contract, it would be fantastic. LaVine, I feel like he's gone underrated now just because I think people just think he is a terrible basketball player, and I just think a lot more of this has to do with his contract and his inability to, be a leader or be a second option on a team. But, this contract's brutal. I mean, all these numbers up here, these three, they go up by 15% once he is traded, so even more reason, not to trade for him if you're an opposing team. But, let's talk about Lonzo's contract here. I could see Lonzo getting dealt before the trade deadline. Like, let's just say he hops into next season. He's playing probably 15 minutes a game as a rotational piece for the Bulls off the bench. And let's just say he shows flashes of his old self. He shows, that rehab process over the last 2.5 years, he is, playing somewhat of what he used to. I could see a contender looking at Lonzo, 6'6" guard, incredibly intelligent player, pretty good athlete. We'll see how that, maintains following these injuries. But I could really see a contender, looking at Lonzo on an expiring deal of $20 million. You just match salary with that, get Lonzo into your program. And, he plays winning basketball, and I think a team could really be, looking to bring him in. But, more on LaVine here. Obviously this past season for LaVine was his worst over the last, 6 seasons. Only averaging 19.5 points per game. Wasn't the most efficient, but, man, I mean, people forget. Look at the 3 years before that. In playing, majority of the games, very efficient, almost a 50-40 guy from the field and from downtown. I just feel like he's gone undervalued. And, I think about the Warriors' decision to decline the trade of Andrew Wiggins and Chris Paul for Zach LaVine. Honestly, I think that was a terrible move by them. I'm really shocked they, didn't accept that deal because, the Warriors, they play this free-flowing offense where, you put your guards in such advantageous situations. Zach LaVine would thrive next to a guy like Steph Curry, taking all that attention. The floor is wide open. And being the athlete he is, I think Zach LaVine could have been a 25-a-game guy, super efficient for Golden State. And then the Warriors, you would have Curry, LaVine, Kuminga, Draymond Green, whatever big you want to fill in at the 5. That's a pretty damn good, starting 5 there. And also guys like Pods coming off the bench. I'm just pretty shocked the Warriors said no to that deal. But, they're a smartly ran front office, so I'm not going to really argue about them or argue about that too much. But let's kick it to Nikola Vucevic here as somehow he is still on my basketball team. I pray for the day I wake up and Nikola Vucevic is off my basketball team. But Matt Moore, he was saying that the Bulls are looking to trade him. He said the Bulls are known to be looking to move Nikola Vucevic along with the never-ending Zach LaVine saga. The Caruso trade both helps and hurts those efforts because Caruso's contract was a quality lubricant for teams willing to take on those contracts, which now isn't available. And I just hope one of these days Nikola Vucevic will be off my basketball team. I'm not saying Vuce is a terrible basketball player, but I just think his impact on the Bulls it's just nothing. I just felt like you could have plugged any other center, any other 5-man, in this group over the last 2-3 seasons, and the wins and losses would be the exact same. He's negative on defense. He takes too many threes. He shot 29% on threes, shooting 4 a game last season as a 7-footer. I don't know, man. I'm just getting sick of watching Vooch, play basketball for the Bulls because you know what? This youth movement is here, and the fact that the Bulls now have 10 guys under the age of 26 that could be good rotational players, and obviously you could have a couple stars in this group. I think it says something. Lonzo's still 26. Bidham's 25. Shout out to him, Turkish GOAT. And then also Jalen Smith, 24. Ayo, 24. Kobe as well. And then look at the 5 guys on the right side of your screen. Patrick Williams being 22 years old. Giddey, 21. Terry, 21. And then Julian Phillips, 20. And they got Modest Buzelis at 19 years old. Also, fun fact, Buzelis is changing his number from 00 214. Think that's pretty cool. You guys can let me know what you think about that in the comments section. But I think the Bulls front office definitely ramped it into gear this offseason. Like, no doubt about it. Like, they clearly showed some self-awareness by saying, we can't compete in our Eastern Conference. Let's start moving on a bunch of these guys, get younger on this roster, and I think it's going to end up working out pretty well. But, hey, as we stand right now on, July 2nd, we still have Nikola Vucevic, Zach LaVine, and, technically DeMar DeRozan's probably on his way out. But you got to get LaVine and Vuce off this basketball team, and then we can really call it a great offseason for our Bulls. But, hey, as it stands right now, grade it for me. What do you guys think how the Bulls front office did this offseason? Give me an A, B, C, D, or F down below. If you guys want more Bulls content on your Twitter timeline, give me a follow over there at Pat Sieps, and I'll give you guys a follow back. But thank you so much for watching. As always, go Bulls.